Hello, my name is Adam Bean and welcome to the 50th edition of airhacks TV. So let's start with the topics straight. And we have lots of topics. So the first question is, I have seen that on http airhacks.io, and this is, where is it? Somewhere. This airhacks.io, this is the online workshops. Have a great selection of workshops. Thank you, but I'm working already on the next one. And did you ever consider selling them as a bundle for a reduced price? I considered, but this is somehow problematic. I think it's not possible to do that because I will have to sell everything as a bundle, and I don't think bundles are available. What I did in the past, I created coupon codes for a Java user group somewhere in Slovakia, I think. They asked me for that. So so there were batches of coupon codes. And today we have the 50th airhacks TV. So what I did, this is the simplest possible thing I can do for you. So the latest video, this is the web components training. I created a 50 coupon codes where you get 25% off for this workshop. And what I decided to do is I will announce a random workshop the next time and will also create some coupon codes for you. So and the coupon code name is airhacks TV. So the coupon code name is airhacks TV and no TC rather than TV. This is the coupon code name. And as so the 51st viewers get 25% off to the rent all, 10 euro or 40 euros if you buy it. I hope it's fair, and I also hope the prices are okay, that you have to pay 10 euro for rent a video for a week. I hope it's fair. This is the simplest possible thing I can do for you. So bundle is just not available. Yeah. Okay, so the first question is answered. So what I also did, I created some things from the last time. So there were some question overflow from the last airhacks TV, and this was the last what I forgot to mention. So what I did, I recorded a YouTube video where numbers are more important than quality. And the reason for that is I performed lots of code reviews, and what I saw is that developers spend a lot of time to increase the code coverage without actually testing anything. And this is really strange because I hope and I think it completely contradicts the agile thinking and whatever is reasonable. So what happened in these projects, they just invoked everything, even enums, exceptions, and constructors, and of course getters and setters. But I never saw that someone tests actual enums to increase code quality. And what I did just for fun, I created a YouTube video, and I got an idea to show you two things. First, how to change the dashboard of Sonar Source, of Sonar Cube, the Sonar tool, with a useful Chrome tool. And what's really funny are the comments. So I just were. Oh man, this is the video. And this was the blog post. And if you go to the video, you will really have to check out the comments. One comment was, "This is great, but how to make it persistent," and stuff like that. And this is half serious, so I have to add a smiley. This was the first complaint. So how I can record such a thing. But the Chrome tool is useful. And of course, this is absolutely fun. What I did, I changed the code coverage after the fact, after changing the code. This was the whole point. So before I will, before someone forces me to change, to invoke a constructor of an enum, or just invoke an enum or test an enum to increase the code coverage, I would rather, change the CSS to increase the code coverage. So this is actually the point of the video. So I wanted to mention this last time. Completely forgot that. Okay, this was the last point, but I forgot it the last time, so I would rather like to mention it right now. And here's my blog. And the very first thing, I got lots of questions and actually project requests regarding swing migration. So why that? Because if you go to the, by the way, all the workshops are already well booked, and I think they will take place even this in December. So if you like to attend, sign up early. But this one, the Swing one, so there was one white paper from Oracle, Java Client Roadmap. So you can read that. And basically, they deprecated the web start, and Swing is just in maintenance mode, which was clear to me, but not very clear to my clients. So they read the white paper from Oracle, and they say, okay, what we should do then. And what I will do here, I will show you what you can do to have a Swing-like, web start-like experience with nothing but web technologies. So we will build actually an offline app with updates and partial updates without any frameworks, just with web standards. So we'll do just in these frameworks and focus on how to migrate the layout and what will be the strategies and stuff like that. Okay, this is new. What also new is, so we can close that, is this. There is an episode which I hope is interesting to you. Java Virtual Machine Innovation with Graal VM. And Graal VM is actually a really interesting project from Oracle, which already started at Sun Microsystems with the JVM called Maxine, and the project name was Maxwell. And what was back then, it was the attempt to create the Java virtual machine with plain Java. And I interviewed Jaroslav Tulach, which is involved in the project. He's one of the developers of project Graal. And he's also founder of NetBeans. So I asked him some question on how NetBeans started, got some interesting background about back then startups, founders, and so forth. So this, and take a look at the Substrate VM, is really interesting stuff. Okay, so we covered this. This is the Web Components workshop. If you like, airhacks TV is the name of the coupon. All the workshops. And now to the news of, I closed that. We go to the Jakarta EE news. This is also one of my topics. And there is a mailing list archive. So how to find that? You go to Jakarta EE community. So this is the URI. And if you search for Jakarta EE mailing list, you will find that. And what's interesting is I was somehow active last time. And what I watched was the discussion about profiles. And as you follow the airhacks, you probably know my statement. And why I like Java EE, this is the first question. I like Java EE because there's only one thing called the API. I use it. It is small. And I don't have to care about composability and plugins. I just use it and it's done. I can focus from the first minute on the business. And then the discussion started, which profiles do we need in Jakarta EE? Should be micro profile or whatever. And actually it started with ears, whether we should deprecate ears. And my answer was, I don't use ears anymore. But before I would deprecate ears, I would deprecate SOAP. And then the situation a little bit escalated because it turns out many people in the mailing list find SOAP useful and don't like to deprecate SOAP, which I think SOAP is still useful, but it is clearly deprecated. I mean, there is no further development, there is no new stuff about SOAP. And in my opinion, we should deprecate SOAP. We should also deprecate in one point of time EJB if we migrate the added values to CDI. So actually, my approach would be to deprecate as much as possible for the core platform to keep the core platform lean. And the profiles are great if you are vendor. If you are server vendor, of course, you could just use profiles to keep your environment more testable. But in my opinion, if you just build, a straight Java EE or Jakarta EE app, you should not care about profiles a lot. I would rather pick, the biggest profile available because there is actually no difference in the size, and then go with it. And if for unknown reasons I will have to optimize the size and to strip off a few megabytes, actually kilobytes, but let's say megabytes, then I would choose a smaller profile. This would be my approach. And there is interesting discussion. So what would be nice if you would read the thread and contribute? So what's your opinion? Do we need more profiles and less profiles? And what I also proposed somewhere here is what I actually wrote. It's actually publicly available, so you can actually read there's the whole discussion. Hopefully it's interesting to you. I don't like to read it right now, everything, but what I said is vendors, profiles are not nice for the vendors, but if we introduce a profile, I would like to have a list. This is the profile name. Which problem does it solve? And then for which use cases or application types this profile is available. Otherwise, we get, microservice profiles with just, and we might think, okay, the question would be, what's this microservice? And yeah, this was my opinion, and just read the thread, and it would be nice if you could contribute. If you like to, to change the future or direct the future of Java EE, now is the time to contribute. Okay. This was Jakarta EE News. And okay, and there's also overall news. There is no more Java 1. The Java 1 conference was renamed to, I think, Oracle Code Conference. Yeah, this is just minor change, but I really like the name Java 1. And I like the name less Oracle Code. So, perfect. So, next question. First of all, I want to tell you, okay, he likes my videos, and forgive me for my faulty English. So I have to say, your English is great. The only thing what I have to, what you said here is, you mean case validations. I don't think you mean validations. You mean catching exceptions. This is I think what I mean, and catch is what you mean is the catch thing on the question basically is, should we catch all runtime exceptions to prevent container of recreating the EJBs? And I have to admit, I never done this. And sure, it is a little bit slower because the container has to recreate the EJBs. But if you think about request scope CDI, this is what happens on every request. So actually, EJB are a huge optimization, because in request scoped CDI beans, they are recreated and destroyed on every request, and on EJBs they are just recreated in case runtime exception happens, or sometimes makes the numbers of instances in the pool smaller. What I really like and what I really appreciate is the fact that on runtime exception the EJB is completely destroyed and then completely rebooted. So I mean rebooted, what I mean by that is the constructor is invoked, post construct is invoked, so we have a clean state again. So in case you have some IO issues or threading issues or whatever native code, which is you should not use but you could use, you have a clean instance again. So I would never catch exceptions, except you are using schedules or timers, because then if exception happens multiple times, usually 3 times, the container just destroys the timer, and the timer is never ever invoked again. So thank you. Your English is great, but I hope you meant exception catching, not exception validation or bin validation. Perfect. Next great question. So we have really nice question this time. So old blog post, I think really old. I forgot actually to look at that. Yeah, 9 years old. Almost. I described transaction synchronization registry. So what transaction synchronization registry does is, the transaction synchronization registry is like a hash map which is associated with the transaction, very similar to transaction scope in CDI. And what I showed in the blog post, because I got the question back then, how to transfer state or context between method calls, and one vehicle would be to use transaction synchronization registry, which is a hash map. And JPRAD asked me, does it work remotely too? And I have to say no. So what could work would be XA transactions. I never tried that, but his question further says, HTTP calls, servlet, JAX-WS, which is SOAP, and JAX-RS, and they are actually not transactional resources, so this wouldn't work. In two-phase commit, at least you could pass the transaction ID, which is kind of a handle, or your UID, so you could use it. So in two-phase commit, the transaction has an ID. I think the name is XXID. But what you mean is I got everything working for HTTP calls, but I don't think the EJBs are working with transaction synchronization registry. So what you could do, search for project Spanny, Adam Bean, and the Span EE is a no dependency Java client for Zipkin. It's an older project, so 1 year ago, it's just a proof of concept. And what I didn't here, what Spanny does is each JAX-RS call, it could be a servlet call, it just injects an ID and then sends the ID to a central place, which can be a Zipkin server. So you can just take a look at the code, and then, instead of sending the ID to someone, you would have the ID, you could do with the ID whatever you like. And this is very simple. I think I use container request filter, JAX-RS container request filter in this case. Okay, so done. So I hope I completely answer your question. So what you will do for the all HTTP stuff, you will have to use your own implementation, because two-phase commit does not apply for servlets. There was an attempt on by Red Hat or JBoss back then to have two-phase commit via REST, but you are using WebSocket 8.5. Okay, so thank you, and I hope I answer your question. And I hope this is not, your avatar, because you are looking a little bit angry with that. So, our next great question with a friendlier picture here. So I have talked a various time about thin wars. Actually, I talk all the time about thin wars, and it works so far better and better in real-world projects, I have to say. And what he says, which he adds 5 to Hibernate to POM, the file increases to 10 megs, which I will still no more call it a thin wars, but in most projects it will be still considered a thin. And he would like to deploy it on Payara 5 server. Now, the question is what he can do, and he tried to put it to a domain 1 libx folder, and the deployment failed. The deployment failed. The reason for that, I think it is loaded too early, and I think the problem is it will interfere with internal Payara classes. I never tried that. And if you package it with the war, this Hibernate does not interfere with internal Payara classes. This is my suspicion. What I will do, P. Kumar, I will go to Payara fish. I'm fine with that. And then go to somewhere. GitHub. It's the Payara Foundation, and then go to the Payara server, and then just create an issue and ask that, because it's a really good question. And what I will do in your case, I actually never advise this. So, and say never use Whitefly with Eclipse Link or Payara with Hibernate, because this is your unique, how it's called, snowflake. This configuration is not used by lots of projects. If something goes wrong, you won't find the answer on Stack Overflow. And if you won't find the answer to Stack Overflow, you will need probably a serious support from the vendors, which is not a bad thing, but why? So I always try to stick with the persistence provider, which comes with the application server, and it works usually really well. But if you have your reasons, I would just create an issue here and just ask, how I can put Hibernate or bundle Hibernate with Payara 5. And let's see what happens. So, yeah. This would be my approach. And otherwise, you still have, then if it doesn't work, you have to live with 10 megs or just use Eclipse Link. And by the way, it was funny. In one project, we migrated from Payara to Whitefly. Developers really like to take Eclipse Link with the migration. And now they're using Eclipse Link on Whitefly because they really like the exception messages better. Okay. So I made in the 48th airhacks episode a code review, performed a code review of a project which I actually forgot. But what I remember is I removed equals and hash code. And I said they are not needed, which is true because the container does not use the hash code and equals to check the equality of the entities, rather than and use the primary key, the ID. Is it always the case? No. If you put the entities in a hash map or in a cache, then a custom hash code implementation could be beneficial, because then the hash map or the cache could be more balanced. But it's not a requirement, to create hash code and equals in all entities. Also, funny side note. In one project, they believed that the entities had to have, getters, setters, hash code on equals. And because they thought this is the requirement, they introduced Lombok to make the code leaner. And then you got just the annotations, which is actually not required. So if in my project I only have getters and setters if I really have to read a single attributes, and equals and hash code I never write them actually without a reason. And then I also don't need Lombok just to generate getters and setters for entities. On the other hand, if you would like to cache the objects in a cache, and you find the right algorithm, then a Lombok might be useful to generate consistent hash code and equals methods. Okay. Exactly. So we covered the collection or a cache. So thank you, Nathan. Next one. Next one. Der Arztmann. This is one of my friends. We met at Java One and had a coffee together. So, will you participate in any of the new Jakarta EE boards? Yes, I would like to. I'm a little bit afraid, so I'm still overloaded with projects. But I would really like to. And I'm actually already Eclipse member because I contributed something to the JSON-B project, and I had to sign the agreement. So it should be easy to me. And I would like to participate. And right now I'm just writing mail and participate in the mailing list. But yes, I would like to do this. The problem with me is I also like to participate in Java 6 and participate in Java 7. And I participated a bit, so I wrote some requirements in Jira, but I participated far less than I actually thought or wanted. So this is, time is always the problem. Okay, is there any chance to send CDI events from one project to another? Absolutely is. So it doesn't come from out of the box, but there was even a project, UI project from Red Hat. I forgot the name, his old one. Red Hat Remote CDI Events. And what was the name of the project? Java UI framework. Array, exactly. The project Array does that. Or did that. Hopefully still alive. So on the server, you could create CDI events, throw them, and they appeared via WebSockets on the client. And what you could do, you could write, for instance, a CDI event listener, observes, in Java 8 even better, an asynchronous listener, and then receive the event and rethrow the event as a WebSocket message, webhook, or whatever you like. So this is easy. What is your approach to test integration system test a WebSocket sending application? So I actually WebSocket testing. So I wrote a system test for that. I wrote Java WebSockets client. And if you look at this video here, I did this. So what I did is I wrote a standalone WebSocket test, and then you can, of course, use as a system test. So it's similar what I do with JAX-RS testing. By the way, there's a Java EE testing video screencast as well. So, and if you like to have discount in Java EE testing, just propose that in the next show notes. But in this video, and what you can also do, you can, I even created a small project. I think I call it HellSockets. Funny name is always HellSockets, exactly. Should be old, 3 years ago. And what it does is it uses the same embedded WebSocket client, Tyrus, and starts multiple threads and tries, to break your server. So you can also take this source code and look at this code and then adapt it to your needs. But yeah, this is what I do. And what I do actually more and more, if I have an user interface, JavaScript, then of course JavaScript comes, or the browser comes with built-in WebSocket client, and then just use system usual user interface testing for my web apps. So yeah, I'm glad that you are watching it asynchronously, and I'm really glad you are interested in airhacks. So it's actually amazing. We are there's the 50th episode, and we have around over 1,000 viewers per episode, which is more than I actually expected. Okay, cool. Jakarta is officially launched. Do you think it will be more like microprofile? No, I think it is going to be heavier. If you take a look at the very similar to Java EE, so there will be lots of conversation on the mailing list, and then, which is really important. Otherwise, someone could just create something and call it a standard. And there are a lot more companies which are interested in Jakarta EE right now. And so I think it would be a lot like Java EE with the JCP, but it will be more open and with probably also more extreme ideas. So and microprofile was what I really appreciate, is very lightweight, so it's very easy to create new specs. Yeah, and I really like the name, and I think the future of Jakarta EE in the Java ecosystem is bright. So, and yeah. How can I combine Primefaces, JPI, JAX-RS, and web services? So you would like to have a Primefaces as a UI, JPA, and JAX-RS. So if you look at my boundary control entity structure, this is what I always show you, how to combine that. And what usually happens is the boundary comprises an EJB, usually something with stateless. In Jakarta EE 9, this would be in, I don't know, next year, 2 years or whatever. Let's say EJBs are deprecated and there was no more stateless, then we get another stereotype then with the same qualities as EJBs. So it is going to be transactional, hopefully pooled and monitorable and stuff like that. So this will be like, a stereotype. And we will annotate with the stereotype the EJB. And then this EJB is exposed via JAX-RS, and the backing bean from Primefaces can directly talk to the EJB. So we have like a multi-channel architecture, we called that back then. Talking about Java 7 building web application, that you say that all data sources and other things must be in the application server. Must we configure all data sources in the server side? I mean, the data sources are on the server side. They are never on the client side. I mean, the data sources, why? Because the data source means there is a connection pool which has to be central on the application server, and so the application server has to know the configuration. You can configure them on the fly, which, but it does not make any sense. You could do it once. I think it's called. So what you could do, data source definition. Annotation. I think, did I this? Huh. No. Lightfish. I use it in Lightfish project. Cool. So in the Lightfish project, I use the data source definition. And as you can see, if you annotate a class, it dynamically generates the data source for you. Now, this is not dynamic. What you can do, all application servers come with CLI, command line interface. What you do in Docker projects, we do it on the fly. And what we do in my current project with Payara, we created with CLI. Then we have placeholders, and they have env for environment dash and the name of the property. And then you can on every start of the Docker container set all the values. And this is what happens in Kubernetes for you. So you can configure this per stage. So this is what happens in so-called cloud native or in the clouds environments. Okay. So I talk about that, and something what I also forgot. I was invited to a conference, All the Bests something, and what I did, I recorded the video in parallel to live streaming, and I published the video, which I was surprised. It is very popular. So I got lots of how to call it. I like this, and one I dislike this. And the funny story was the one came immediately. So after the show was published, it very looked like Google just gave me a minus, but I didn't got 81 likes, which really surprised me because I just created some Hello World apps and let them communicate, what I usually always do. It seems like it's a good idea to redo my old videos because they are forgotten. And yeah, if you like, watch this and give me feedback. So I was surprised that it was so well received. Actually, at the end, I use micro profile if you're interested. Cool. Okay, so we can close that. Jakarta. I think we are done. I just go to here. Yeah, no further questions. We covered hopefully everything. I just take a brief look here at the chat. So nothing happens in chat. Nothing here, and nothing here. And and Daniel asked me also. This was an also attendee from the Java EE airhack workshops, and he asked me, to show some configuration of a data source, and did it already in Payara configured project. So what I did, I created configuration for heap and so forth, and data source is just different command. So if you go to project doclens Adam Bean, which comes with Docker files. And by the way, I always forget to blog about that. There are some really current. Should be a few weeks old images. So I try to keep them current. Like the varnish is, for instance, and we have varnish JAX-RS cache. I will probably record a video about that. But the question was about configuration. And there is Payara configured image. And if you take a look at this is what happens. So if you add your as admin create data source, then you have the answer. So just take this and then do whatever you like. So it already happened. Okay. Then what else? This was also funny. In my company, all Java apps using ear over wars with third-party libs, and it became fat. What's the inconvenience of that? And what I did is, my answer was too long turnaround cycles, too much coffee, and health issues. So, I mean, if something is fat, it's slow. And yeah. Okay, so I think we are done. So then I would say thank you for watching. See you at in autumn. So about web, Swing migrations, and also the classic, usually always overbooked with, I guess, already Christmas market should be in Munich, architectures, microservices, and performance troubleshooting and monitoring. And yeah, thank you for watching, and bye.